My name is Mary Jones. I am the Recreation Supervisor here at MLK Center with the City of Wilmington. And
I'm Davina Bell, Recreation Manager, Mayor's Supervisor, but partner in crime on this project.
oh yes. What we would like to do, we initially thought about with the commercial kitchen what we would like for it to look like. Even whenever we started building from ground up, with true intentions that it would be a great use from the community. And we had focus groups. I don't know if you all had heard about our focus groups that we had earlier this year, but we had some focus groups, the business perspective of it, and then the community perspective of the kitchen. And the business perspective of focus groups, they came up with several ideas of how they would like to see the commercial kitchen ran and how it could be more conducive and available to help serve their business and even to gain more businesses, to join in. So in saying all of that, we really wanted to place together an orientation for businesses, so everyone will be clear about how it can be ran, some advantages, of course, and some disadvantages. But it's all just it's community conversation that we would like to just have moving forward here now and moving forward, and how we would like to operate our kitchen. Feel free if you have any suggestions and ideas. The City of Wilmington, we are open to anything. Okay. Right now, we are flip-flopping our business orientation. The health department, they're going to come in and they're going to have a detailed presentation as far as how the kitchen should be ran in their perspective of things. And but right now, we're going to handle like the rental component of it. If you can first take a look at the rental process, we have the standard operating procedures, which will give you a detail of all of our rules and regulations and the expectations of the kitchen, our facility expectations, how to get started, whenever you do get started, how to run the kitchen as you're cooking in there. During your production, what to expect at the closing of your production. Make sure you have your checklist. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if you have anyone ever worked in a commercial kitchen before?
Briefly, at the food bank.
At the food bank? Okay. I don't know what type of operations that they have, but these are the ones that we did. A few. Okay.
Probably similar.
Oh, okay. Okay. Some of the things to make sure that we're clear on how we're cleaning and sanitizing equipment whenever we're utilizing it, the solutions to use, if you see any pests in there.
I just have one question about the solution. Is that something that's provided by MLK, or do we have to bring our own?
No, we will provide
Okay.
it. Yes, Clorox based. Yes. And the responsibilities of each party, what you will be responsible for and what we will be responsible for. But it's all in detailed within the standard operating procedure booklet. And of course, it'll tell you how to prepare, how to come dressed, what to cover. Individuals with beards, we do provide, the beard covering and everything. So those are just brief examples, but if you could take a thorough look at this, and that will give you, this is your kitchen Bible. Okay. And then also our application. And within our application, it will share with you the hours of operation, and what type of, you can just check what type of, if you're a caterer, what are you doing in the kitchen? Are you baking? What type of foods that you're preparing? And always remember, within this, you would also need to share with us your ingredients, what you're preparing, etc. Okay? So we will make sure that everything will be covered. And we also have cold storage and dry storage as well. Okay. And then on the next page, it will share with you the prices of everything, your different procedures, the rental types that we're looking for, your fees, your terms, etc. And then what's really, really important is this orientation, which you're completing it now. So, but if you know someone, we are making this presentation available online, but you must complete the orientation before you be able to rent it out, okay?
One more question.
Yes.
So I'm part of Willowdale, which is part of CEII, I think.
Yes,
Right, with Dolores.
Dolores.
Yeah. So as that's who I'm with, so would we all individually need to go through the orientation to be part of that group? I mean, I think you should,
Yes.
but I just.
Yes.
Yeah, anyone who's going to
Anyone.
be operating in the
Got
kitchen needs to go through the orientation.
Yes.
Because I know the question will come up. Do I have to go? I
Yeah, no,
figured yes, but I
Miss
wanted to see.
Beverly, you know, she was with us last
Yeah.
night in teaching, so yes.
Yeah, I heard you were in the kitchen.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was in the
I said,
kitchen.
where was I?
But absolutely, everyone should be a part of the orientation.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Also, we have our waiver form that must be completed. Your kitchen emergency contact form that must be completed. And then here is our facility check-in and check-out list. What we would do is, as you enter the kitchen, a staff member, myself, we will be here and we will walk through the process of this, making sure that everything is okay, any discrepancies, etc. We'll write down the description and the details, any type of comments, and then at your exit, we will do the same thing. Okay? Okay. Seems fair enough, straightforward?
Yeah.
Okay. Have any questions? Okay. Next one.
Just to go through the application process, it can be submitted online or in person. It'll be a fillable form online, just to keep it simple for those that choose to do it that way. And it has to be submitted at least 3 weeks prior to the date of use, just because we are, not just from the business perspective, but also from just general rental parties, we're expecting quite a deluge of folks that are interested in using the space. So we, at minimum, 3 weeks prior to when you would like to use it. And as Mary went through all the documents, upon application approval, everything has to be required, or all required documents need to be submitted, including any permitting that you receive from the county and or the state, depending on what you're making. The rental deposit is also due upon approval, with a balance due at least 1 week prior to the rental. And then, as Mary mentioned, completing the orientation, which, congratulations, you're almost done. Just want to go through the facility rules in general. So, go ahead.
Just general facility rules. You know, we have no smoking, no alcohol consumption. Please do not come in. You know, just kidding. I think that would definitely have some interesting ingredients if you do that. But also make sure that, you know, as I stated, the cleanup posting part. Okay. Access. You will have access to restrooms while you're here, and you can use, like this room it's connected with it. Let us know if you need this room. There is a charge for any type of room space. Okay. And as Ms. Davina mentioned, and if you can look at the at the application, we would share like your time frames, your age requirements. We do 21 and up. I mean, I know we will be having like some youth classes, so if we could go through those, if you have any for yourself, please make sure that we know, and we'll give you more details about how to manage that So there won't be any type of liability concerns with that. And then we went through the standard operating procedures and the walkthrough and the checklist and the emergency contact. If anything happens, please contact us or staff member here immediately.
And this is just a recap of what we briefly covered. So, did you want to go through specifically the checklist? So, submitting all of your documentation, application, all required documents, completion of orientation, completion of the liability waiver, and that's for anyone that's going to be in the kitchen with you for coverage of ourselves as well as you, and any fees and other payments that are due. Any questions? Yes.
So, again, I don't want to assume, so again, I'm working with Willowdale, let's say Willowdale rents it, do we all have to pay that rental fee?
No.
It's just, so it's a one person or entity rents it?
Yep. Staff contact information. I am last. If you can't reach anyone else, then you can contact me, but Mary and Dan are both very responsive to anyone's needs. So start there and then come to me.
And please, whenever she says start there and then come to her, give us the opportunity to respond to you. Okay? I know sometimes if we don't get expedient response, we just go down the phone list, but just give us an opportunity to reply, because I don't want to overflood Ms. Davina.
What would the time frame be?
What, for the rental?
No, to respond or not have to respond?
Oh, within a day.
Okay.
Within a day. Give us today.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
People are like, well, it's been 60 minutes.
Now let me move on to the next one. Yes.
It's an emergency? Yeah, but, otherwise, no. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes. All right. Well, thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Hello, friends. My name is Chanel Bryant. I'm from New Hanover County Environmental Health. I'm one of their environmental health specialists. Long word for a health inspector. Yes.
Do you need me to go through?
So I'm going to be going over kind of the permitting requirements, if you need to be permitted and by whom, and what kind of things we would look for on our end while you guys are utilizing the MLK Center Kitchen. Lovely PowerPoint. So before I get started, I know we kind of went the more is more option. So we've got a lot of information. So who here has worked in food service industry?
Briefly.
Any familiarity? Briefly? Okay.
Food bank.
Food bank. Okay, perfect. So some of this information, a lot of it is geared towards people with little to no food service experience. So we can breeze through anything that's overly familiar. So to get started, we're going to talk about regulations, who is regulated by the North Carolina Department of Agriculture, catering versus private chef, free food, food for donation, mobile food trucks and mobile food units, limited food establishment, and the cottage food industry in North Carolina. We'll also go through ServSafe and food safety certification and kind of our expectations for working within a commissary kitchen. So to start here, start with things that are regulated by the North Carolina Department of Agriculture and not the Department of Health and Human Services. That's going to be non-savory baked goods. So your breads, your cupcakes, cakes, baked goods that contain non-TCS fruits. TCS means temperature controlled for safety. We'll get into that a little more later. Raw and repackaged seafood, and that is exactly what it sounds like. It's not pasteurized crab, it's not steamed shrimp, it's not flash boiled crabs, raw or repackaged. Wholesale items and bottled juices. So that's juices that are just bottled there, not necessarily fresh squeezed or packaged on premises. All of these things are regulated by the North Carolina Department of Agriculture. That is who you would need clearance and permitting from to engage in any of these things. In other words, if you just want to bake, you don't need to talk to me, you need to call the Department of Agriculture. So other regulated areas, we at the health department, we would regulate catering. And the difference between catering and being a private chef, catering means that you are preparing food off-site and bringing prepared food to an event or an establishment. Being a private chef means that you are purchasing ingredients and bringing ingredients to an establishment to prepare food there. You do not need a permit through the health department to be a private chef, but catering does require a permit. So, free food, so food that is prepared for donations, food that is prepared for nonprofit events or organizations, things like feeding the unhoused populations, after school programs, what have you. Those are kind of in a blind spot of regulation between both the Department of Health and the Department of Agriculture. We do still offer and would love to offer food safety guidance. We do want to still make sure that that food is as safe as possible, but you don't need a permit for those actions. So, mobile food units, that's going to be food trucks, push carts, caterers are considered mobile food units. So with those all need to be permitted through New Hanover County. What you'll do is there's an application you can fill out online or in person, whichever is easier for you. They would go through a plan review process, which our plan review department would go through your menu, your processes, how you would want to do that. But the most important thing is that all activities, all food preparation and storage have to occur in a licensed commissary, so somewhere like here. They'll have to operate in conjunction with their commissary kitchen, so food prep will have to happen here. You'll have to return to the commissary within 24 hours of any and all events. Push carts are very limited. They're only allowed to serve hot dogs and hot dog-like items, so you can't serve burgers out of a push cart. You can't pop up a grill and cook burgers on a grill or cook hot dogs on a grill. And like I said, you must return back to the commissary 24 hours of operation or events. Limited food establishments. So limited food establishments are going to be things like concession stands, and they need to be both a nonprofit and an amateur athletic event. So things like your high school football game athletic events or the Wilmington Sharks, that is both nonprofit and amateur athletic. You have to meet both of those qualifications to qualify for a limited food establishment permit. We don't really have too many of those. Is anyone here planning on doing amateur sport concessions? Didn't think so. So the cottage food laws, which are going to be foods that you can prepare at home. The most important thing with that is that there can be no pets in the home or on the property. If you have an outside dog that's on the property, you do not qualify for cottage foods. If you have chickens, does not qualify for cottage foods. But it comes into the same level of regulation as items that are regulated by the Department of Agriculture with a few exceptions. So you can still do non-savory baked goods, but it also now limits you to goods that don't require refrigeration. So no cheesecakes, no fancy puddings, no mousse. Anything that requires refrigeration is kind of off the table if you're going to operate under cottage foods. Jams, jellies, and preserves, those do not require refrigeration, so they are absolutely applicable and allowed under cottage food law. Lemonade, acidic sauces, so if you want to do hot sauces, tomato sauces, red pepper jelly, all allowed. Freeze-dried fruits and nuts, those are allowed. Coffee products, cookies, pickles, and that just doesn't mean cucumbers. If you want to pickle jalapenos and pickle peppers, that's allowed. Anything that ends up pickled. And candies. Any questions at this point just about the areas of regulations and permitting?
Last one, who regulates that?
Cottage food laws are regulated by a subdepartment in the Department of Agriculture.
I guess they come into the facility and check it?
Yes, they would come to your home, inspect your home, see that there are no pets, review your processes, just like they would with any other permitted establishment. So some general food safety knowledge. So there are 5 main foodborne illness risk factors, and that is the primary goal of kind of environmental health and health inspectors is we want to minimize foodborne illnesses. So the first one is cook temperatures. That is one of our risk temperatures. We want to make cook temperatures and holding temperatures. So we want to make sure that we are appropriately temping foods, making sure that foods are being held either hot or cold. Hot is defined as 135 degrees Fahrenheit or above, and cold is 41 degrees or below. So not I touched it and it felt hot, or I touched it and it felt cold. It's got a defined number. You know, people might send their food back in a restaurant and say it's cold, and people think that that is cold. No, cold is 41 or less, not 42, 41 or less. Ways to minimize and maintain cold holding temperatures. We want to make sure we're not overloading cold holding equipment. If you've ever seen a flip top cooler, you see these little pans and they have those ledges. They're not there for no reason. That is the fill line. That's the guaranteed line. Everything at and below that line is going to stay cold or hot inside of your equipment. We want to ensure that when we're reheating foods, that we're reheating foods to 165 or above. Reheating means that this has been cooked, it's been cooled down, so now it's cold and we want to warm it back up. We have to warm everything back to 165 or above, and then you can either serve it or you can hold it hot. So, coming on to cooling. So there are two types of foods that need to be cooled. Hot foods, meaning foods that were previously 135 or above, and ambient temperature foods, which is going to be anything that's above 41. So hot foods will be things like cooked chili, cooked rotisserie chicken, cooked fish, mac and cheese. Ambient foods will be things like tuna fish that weren't heated up, but it's simply not cold anymore. So hot foods, you have two checkpoints for cooling. You've got to come from 135 to 70 within the first 2 hours. If you don't meet the cooling requirement in the first 2 hours, you can reheat to 165 and start again. The second checkpoint, after reaching 70 degrees within 2 hours, you have 4 hours to cool from 70 or below down to 41 or less. So for hot foods, you get a total of 6 hours to cool. For ambient temperature foods, you have 4 hours to go from 70 to 41. Any questions about that? Okay. So this again is just reiterating the cooling thresholds and the cooling parameters. We want to go from 135 to 70 within 2 hours and 70 to 41 within an additional 4 hours. You can do it in less time than that. That would be ideal. That is fantastic, but you can't have more time. So cook temperatures. One of my coworkers did create a fun little game. We're not going to do that today. So foods that need to be cooked to 165 degrees for at less than 1 second. Anyone know what foods those would be? We're looking for chicken, poultry products, and any stuffed meats. So a stuffed salmon, stuffed turkey at Thanksgiving, you want to make sure that's hitting at least 165 degrees. And any foods that are being reheated that were previously cooked and cooled. Next, foods that need to be cooked to 155 for at least 17 seconds. We're looking for ground meat, so it's going to be hamburgers, sausages, and any dish containing ground meat, any mechanically tenderized meat, ground seafood, and shell eggs that are going to be held hot for service. Eggs cooked for immediate service, they can be cooked to whatever temperature. Foods that need to be cooked to 145 for a minimum of 15 seconds, it's going to be whole muscle meats, so steaks, chops, whole seafoods, and shellfish or shell eggs for immediate service. And anything that needs to be cooked to 135 are going to be vegetables and grain that are intended to be hot held for service. Any question about cook temperatures? Perfect. So holding temperature requirements, everything between 135 and 41 is going to be considered the temperature danger zone. And it's considered that because that is the ideal temperature for bacteria growth. And those bacteria are what make people sick. Another important thing beyond holding temperatures is also holding times. So foods, most prepared foods or temperature control for safety foods can only be held for a maximum of 7 days, and the date of preparation or opening counts as day 1. Oh, I thought we would go more into it. But to explain what a temperature control for safety food is going to consist of, that's going to be any heat-treated plant or animal foods, so any cooked meat, any cooked vegetables, that's going to have to apply that 7-day date marking rule. Raw meats do not necessarily need to be date marked. That doesn't mean you can just keep them forever. We just don't require you to label the date. Other things that are going to be temperature controlled for safety: cut tomatoes, cut leafy greens, so that's going to be your lettuce, your spinach, your kale. Once you cut into those, that has the 7-day life. Tofu is going to have a 7-day life. Cut melon. Not all fruits are temperature controlled for safety, just cut melons. Any questions about date marking or holding temperatures? So employee health. Important things about employee health we like to talk about, and we want to make sure that anyone handling food is aware of the 6 foodborne illnesses. These are the 6 most common. They're not the only 6. And the 5 symptoms of illness. So both of them, we want to restrict anyone experiencing any of these 6 foodborne illnesses or any of the symptoms. And we will exclude people with any of the illnesses as well. Only notice if you note jaundice or hepatitis A, that is one that you will need to report to the health department. Any questions about these? Has anyone ever seen these before? If you've worked in food, I hope you've seen it before. All right. So next is bare hand contact. Bare hand contact is one that in popular social context gets a lot of pushback, and there's a lot of opinions on this. Essentially, we want to minimize bare hand contact with ready-to-eat foods as much as possible. So ready-to-eat food is exactly what it sounds like. It's anything that you could pick up, put in your mouth, and eat without any further processing or cooking. So cooked meat, fish, pasta, rice, vegetables after they've been washed are considered ready to eat because you could theoretically eat them. Potato chips, tortillas, baked goods, all of those are ready to eat foods, and we want to try not to handle them with bare hands as much as possible. Ways to avoid that will include using utensils, wearing gloves, or using even just deli or tissue paper. You just want to put a barrier between your bare hands and the ready to eat food. Now, glove usage is an excellent barrier and an easy barrier to bare hand contact. Most of the time we're using single-use gloves, and a single-use glove means just that. We use it one time for one task and then we discard it. Proper glove usage is a good substitution for utensils or tongs. However, it's not a substitute for hand washing. So just because you put on a pair of gloves doesn't mean that you don't have to wash your hands anymore. You need to wash your hands before you put those gloves on, and you need to wash your hands when you change those gloves. After you change tasks, of course. Which brings us to our next section, hand washing. So there's roughly 10 times, according to the North Carolina Food Code, when you should be washing your hands. Immediately upon arriving, before handling any sort of food products, we want to wash our hands. After coughing or sneezing, we want to wash our hands. After eating or drinking, we want to wash our hands. After using the restroom, you want to wash your hands. And just to highlight on using the restroom, what happens in the restroom, okay, but you need to wash your hands when you come back into the kitchen. And it is why we regulate the kitchen more than the restroom itself, because part of proper hand washing is using an appropriate barrier to turn off the faucet. And I'm sure you guys have been places and they have the air dryers and the air knives and no barrier for you to turn off the faucet if it's not an automatic faucet. But every hand sink in a kitchen has paper towels because that's the requirement, and you need to wash your hands when you get back to the kitchen. Personally, please also wash them before you leave the restroom, but absolutely also wash them when you get back in the kitchen. After handling any animals, I see that a lot in New Hanover County, puppies on the patio and the outdoor seating, you gotta pet them, okay. Please wash your hands when you get back in the kitchen. Animals also includes live crustaceans or live fish. If you're working in an operation that has a lobster tank, or if you're handling oysters, you need to wash your hands after we handle those are live animals. After handling any soiled dishes, when switching from raw to ready-to-eat foods, all of those are times that you need to wash your hands, and any time throughout the day that you notice your hands have become soiled. The proper steps of hand washing. So, all of these are very great. The most important thing, we want a towel dry and turn off the tap with a towel, because otherwise you've just recontaminated your hands. In full honesty, I don't know that there's anyone that's going to harass someone because they didn't wet their hands before applying the soap. But the most important step is going to be down here at the end, because if you took your soiled hands and turned the faucet on, the faucet's now soiled as well. Other important thing to note, hand washing only counts at a hand washing sink. So we can't wash our hands in the dish sink. We can't wash our hands in the prep sink. They're not designed for that. They're not intended for that. They're not kept clean enough for that. So hand washing only in hand sink. So contaminated equipment. We want to make sure that we're cleaning dishes and any repeated use equipment every time it is used. Trust your senses. If something smells off, if something looks off, clean it. This picture, that looks like maybe rice in a pot. They are maggots on a deli slicer. And that's a real photo from a real inspection. Not one that I personally did. One of my coworkers did that. So ask for help. If you don't know how to clean a particular piece of equipment, ask someone. Please ask someone. Approved food sources. So approved food sources are places that have been approved by either the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Health, and we want to make sure that if you are working with a regulated establishment, if you are a permitted food vendor, you're receiving your food from approved food sources. Harris Teeter is an approved food source. Sam's Club is an approved food source. Cisco is an approved food source. Your buddy with a truck full of fish is not an approved food source. Your Mima with a farm out in the country is not an approved food source. So we want to make sure if you're regulated and permitted, you're using approved food sources. If you're not regulated and permitted, I would love if you use an approved food source. I don't have jurisdiction to tell you you have to, but if you're regulated and permitted, please do. If you are operating kind of in that donation area, providing free food, so that's not regulated by us or the Department of Agriculture, I would at the very least charge you to just be careful about the sources you receive foods from. So if you're accepting donated foods from the university or from a food bank or a soup kitchen, consider the date on that food. How long has it been had? How long has it been prepared? Is it within its 7-day shelf life? What is its temperature? Is it at an appropriate and safe temperature to resell and to reserve to people? So approved sources means where does the food come from, but also how has the food been treated before it got to you as well.
I have a question.
Yes.
So again, I'm with Willowdale. It's a community farm.
Mm-hmm.
We would not be able to take our homegrown products at that farm for cooking. Or
That depends on who you're serving it to and how you're operating. If you're operating as a permitted vendor, you're doing events that are transactional, meaning people are paying for food, so you would have to have a permit. And then since you were permitted, we would have to have an approved source. So as far as I know, I don't think Willowdale is currently an approved source. That doesn't mean you can't use those for anything. You could give those products away. You could use what products you grow for donation. You can offer them as samples,
Right.
but you would not be able to offer them for sale as a permitted vendor.
Thank you.
So, Certified Food Protection Manager. Everyone uses ServSafe. ServSafe is the most popular. They are also the most expensive. All that we require at the state and county level is that you are a certified food protection manager. So you have 210 days after permitting to achieve that certification. It has to be an ANSI accredited program, and ServSafe is not the only one. And it has to be the food protection manager, not the food handler. There are plenty of programs. Ooh, that was fun. Here's a list of different programs at varying price points that are much more affordable that will still give you a recognized certified food protection manager. I can tell you the ServSafe will run you about $250 in person. You can also take it online for about $180. The state food safety course, though, is only $86, and you can do that completely online. 360 training, I'm not sure the current pricing on that. The National Registry of Food Safety Professionals will run you in the $150 range. Safe Plates is about $75 to $80, and then it has an additional proctoring fee. That varies. I'm not sure what that is off the top of my head. But the biggest thing is that there are plenty of training options for you to be able to get a certified food protection manager certification in a way that is accommodating to your schedule and at a reasonable price point. Anyone that is a permitted vendor will need to have this, but if you are not permitted, you are not required to have it.
Are all of them good still for 5 years, like the serve safe?
I'm not sure. Everyone has kind of their own threshold. The National Registry of Food Safety Professionals, that one is 5 years. Safe Plates is, I think Safe Plates may be 3 years. But they all also tell you how long your certificate is good for before you pay for it.
Okay.
So it's not like you would pick something that's like affordable and then it's only good for a year.
Right.
They would tell you coming into it. I know State Food Safety is 5 years and 360 training I think is 7 years.
Oh wow.
They've increased some of the times on these.
Okay.
So all of them.
I mean, I worked at the Blue Willow
Mhm.
probably 2 years ago, and me and my husband prepared food overnight there for them, and we did the Serve Safe class, and it was good for 5 years. I was just wondering, because our 5 years was really coming up, so I just didn't know.
A lot of these are 5 years, and a lot of them are moving to longer certification periods just because the research and the information doesn't change. That is based on kind of how often. So there's the FDA food code, and that gets updated every 4 years. So usually classes and information will change every 4 to 5 years. So I'm fairly sure the majority of these are good for at least 5 years.
Okay.
It's typically, the manager ones are always good for longer amounts of time. The food handlers, those are going to expire within the year a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So, commissary expectations. What I can tell you before we get into this, our expectations are not going to be very different from the MLK Center's expectations. So, we're going to echo the mobile food unit requirements. If you're going to operate as a mobile food unit, a caterer, a push cart, etc., you will need to be permitted. And you have to operate in conjunction with a commissary kitchen, so you can't prepare food at home and then sell it on your food truck. You have to report to your commissary daily within 24 hours of operating, and each vendor must sign in and out at the commissary. So that is something that kind of we will hold you guys as individual vendors accountable for, but also the MLK Center staff accountable for. Some extra things about commissary expectations. So mobile food units and push carts and caterers cannot provide seating for customers. So you could not say you're going to cater or prepare food and then set up tables and chairs for someone to eat. If the MLK Center wanted to host an event on your behalf and you serve food at that, that is allowed. But you would not be able to kind of bring tables and chairs and set them up. All approved SOPs must be followed. So when you go through the permitting and plan review process, we're going to ask for your SOPs and we're going to expect you to follow them. You will also have to follow the MLK Center's SOPs. Anything that kind of doesn't match up, it would be kind of up to you guys to hit a middle ground because we're going to expect both to be followed. And of course, an approved food safety manager course will be required for the person in charge for each vendor. So for you, someone who operates with a group of people, we don't need every single person to have a food safety manager, just one. Whoever is going to be present most often, whoever is going to be kind of designated in charge. Yes. Well, they have to be present at the time of inspection. We would love for them to be present all of the time. But if you're permitted and you do get an inspection and that person's not there, that is a point deduction because that's a violation. So I would recommend if you work with a group of people, depending on how large that group is, get a couple of people certified. That way you can rotate in and out and it's not on one person to be here all of the time. If you're going to be permitted and regulated by environmental health, what's that? Oh, sorry. If you're permitted and regulated by environmental health, any menu or equipment changes would have to be approved by the department. That really goes more for kind of mobile food units. If you're going to swap out a refrigerator, if you're going to get rid of a refrigerator, we would want to know. If you're going to drastically change the menu that you're offering, typically caterers carry very large menus. They don't do very many menu changes. But that mainly will apply to mobile food units. Any hot foods left at the end of service must be discarded. So if you prepare food for an event or for a reason and you take them to the event, you can't bring any food back. no bulk storage of any kind off-site. So if you're getting single service items, if you are bulk buying flour or bulk purchasing spices, you can't store them at home, you can't store them in your mobile food unit, they would have to be stored at the commissary. Any refrigerated items held for more than 24 hours must be date marked. So that goes back to cold holding or hot holding, or cold holding food. You have to mark it 7 days. Date of preparation is day 1, so really 6 days after you make it.
Do you want date alone or date and time?
Date is all we require. If you want to put a time on it, gold star, but we just require date. I will say places that like to use times, it will get them in trouble sometimes, because if you're a minute past, it's technically out of date.
Right.
Now, no one's really that pedantic, but we only require a date or date. So you can say Monday for all we are involved. And if it's been several Mondays and that doesn't look right, we're going to ask some questions. If not provided by the commissary, any and all equipment must be stored at the commissary. So I know they're going to provide certain utensils, small wares, and what have you. Any additional things that you guys want to use, they have to be stored at the commissary. And we've gone through all of this. All utensils must be washed in the commissary. That's going to kind of have an asterisk. Some mobile food units are approved to wash their utensils on their units. This one, though, all areas need to be cleaned and sanitized once the vendor's finished with food prep. So we're going to require that. The MLK Center is going to require that as well. And for more reiteration, a food safety manager course is required for the person in charge for each vendor. So if you are a one-person operation, I would get one of those. You get 210 days to get it. We did also have some demonstrations. Since this was kind of short notice, I did not have the whole team come with me. But demonstration of cooling. There are a lot of ways to accomplish cooling within the time and temperature parameters I discussed, using small batches and small volumes of things, laying things out on sheet trays so that they're nice and thin, cooling things throughout the process. So if you're going to make chicken salad and you cooked chicken first, cool the chicken first, cool off your mayonnaise, use cold celery, relish, whatever you put in your chicken salad. If you cool all of those things individually, it makes it a lot easier to cool the finished product. We had a demonstration of how to take food temperatures. Essentially, you want to check the thickest part of the food if you're checking individual foods. If you're checking a container of food, don't jam your thermometer all the way into the bottom. You want to check at kind of the surface of the food where you would reasonably be scooping from. Hand washing demonstration. I don't know that we need that today. I trust you guys.
You'd be surprised.
You,
I worked in the medical field too, you'd be surprised.
I do at least one hand washing demonstration per inspection I do.
You can
So
open the kitchen.
I
We're
believe
going
you.
in there anyway.
I mean, I trust you guys. We can hand wash. We'll hand wash when we get in there. Making sanitizer. This one is an important one. There's lots of different types of sanitizer. The MLK Center will provide sanitizer, but you as individual vendors also have the right to make and provide your own. The most important thing is that you're diluting it appropriately, you have the right test strips that match your sanitizer, and that you are checking the concentration of your sanitizer. Sanitizer that is too low is not sanitizer at all, and sanitizer that is too high is actually toxic. So we want to make sure we're mixing to appropriate concentrations. We can look at that while we're in the kitchen as well, because I think you guys have some sanitizer. And that is it. Does anyone have any questions at this time? No? Okay. Well, if anything comes up, you're welcome to reach out.
Is that all online?
Not yet, it's
Information you gave
not.
us?
I mean, it's in pieces online, but not this whole PowerPoint. We're working on getting it uploaded and having it available for the MLK Center to put online as well.
Thank you.
Of course, you're welcome. So, approved places to hand wash. We have our hand sink, second hand sink. They should all always have soap, paper towels, hot and cold water. Hand sinks are required to have 100-degree hot water. You don't have to wash your hands in that 100-degree hot water. In theory, you should take off any washes, bracelets, etc. In an inspection, I would take off my watch. this water's not hot, but I'm gonna wash my hands anyway. I'm gonna wet our hands. Reasonable amount of soap. We'll scrub for 20 to 30 seconds. 2 happy birthdays, the chorus of your favorite song. Get palms between the fingers, the backs. My nails are a little long, so I bring a nail brush for inspections. That's not a requirement. You will rinse. Off with the water. And that is a proper hand wash. If you do this entire process over here at our 3-compartment sink, it doesn't count. Only hand washes. So let's look at our sanitizer. We have some? Yes. So there are several types of approved sanitizer. We have chlorine sanitizer, which is made with bleach and water. And when you get that, you want to get the most regular, cheapest bleach. Nothing that is splash proof, nothing scented, just your regular store brand bleach. And test strips. I like you guys test strips. Other kinds of commercial sanitizers that you will see and that are available for purchase, you can use quaternary ammonium. You can also get lactic acid sink and surface sanitizer, but all of them come with test strips. These are typically what you'll see for quat sanitizer, and these are what you will see for chlorine. And on there, they will tell you approved ranges. For quat sanitizer, we're looking to 200 to 400 parts per million. It comes with a little color strip. It'll show you when it's between 2 and 400, and hopefully not around it. Chlorine, you want to look at 50 to 200. Below 50 is ineffective. Greater than 200 is probably just bleach. So, so we'll stop the sink. Put on some water. Sanitizer, you're looking for room temperature water, not hot. I go with about a capful. Let that run a little bit.
What's your ratio?
About a capful to about a half of a sink of water. Yeah, you want to run it until you get a safe concentration. So this is too low. So we'll add more bleach. A lot of places have dispensers that auto mix it. You'll just want to check and make sure it's running appropriately. I wish I could give you guys specific measurements. I just eyeball it a lot. So here we are, right at 100. Okay. A strong eyeball splash. So that's how we want to make sanitizer. Just kind of mix it as you need. I definitely recommend if you're going to make sanitizer for use, make it in a larger volume, test it there and make sure it's good, and then fill up any buckets or spray bottles you want to use. It's a lot easier to get this right in high volume than it is in a teeny tiny bucket.
So if you make it in a spray bottle, how long does it last?
There's actually not a time frame for it. A lot of people think you have to change sanitizer every 2 hours or anything like that. There's not a lot of science supporting that. In restaurants or establishments where you're using a sanitizer bucket, we definitely want to change them frequently whenever it becomes soiled, if it's cloudy, or if the cloths that are stored in it are visibly dirty. But there's no requirement to change your sanitizer every period of time. In a spray bottle, it's a closed environment, it's perfectly fine. So, seal these. Also, when you're storing your chemicals, make sure they're underneath any foods or clean equipment. We don't want any splashes or drips or contamination. So these are stored under here. That's the perfect place for them. Other things to point out while I'm in here. This is a thermometer. It's used to measure the temperature of the water in the dish machine. It's called a plate thermometer because it essentially simulates a plate, and it'll read the highest temperature that the dishwasher reaches while it's washing a cycle of dishes.
And how is that used? It goes in?
Yes. So you turn it on, and run it through here like a dish. So it comes on.
Do you do it free or with the dishes?
You can do it with the dishes or beforehand, your choice, but it will just let you know what temperature it is. I would not put this in kind of the first run of the day, but if you're the first one in the kitchen, you see the dish machine's not on.
Right.
I'd run it a few times and then run a thermometer to see if it's reaching temperature first. That evaporating on its own. And I think that's about it that I can think of. You guys got lots of fun equipment. More than last time. So ideally what we would look for in a commissary kitchen is everyone would have labeled segregated space. We would want to separate that either in kind of vertical columns, horizontal if need be, or whatever works with the space. But we want to just be mindful of proper food storage so that we're not storing food in a way that could cause cross-contamination. We also want to make sure when we're looking at things, that's the condenser. We want to make sure that when we're looking at things, we can attribute what we're seeing to the right person. These reach-in coolers, the flip-top cooler, those are not cooling equipment. They're not designed to cool. They're only designed to hold things cold once they're already cold. Additionally, if you are looking for kind of quick space, if you're going to be working through a lot, you want to keep products cold, or at least just not warm in between, I would definitely recommend using some of these smaller cold holding equipment. They're designed and intended to be opened and closed much more frequently and hold their temperature than the walk-in cooler and refrigerator and the freezer. Ice machine is a fun friend. If you're using ice, that is amazing. I strongly recommend everyone kind of do their part to help keep it clean, because we want to make sure the ice machine is clean. Same thing with the microwave, the deli slicer. If you don't know how to take apart a deli slicer, I strongly recommend finding out before you use it, not after you use it when you need to clean it. I do not know how to take apart a deli slicer, so I will not be demonstrating that for you. Full honesty. If I go into places, I make them take it apart for me. And if they can't do that, that's a different conversation. But always make sure it's unplugged before you start messing with anything. It's unplugged, so it's wrong.
Amazing how much bacteria can actually get from ice machine. People don't realize that.
Other food contact surfaces, your cutting boards. The MLK Center is delightful enough to provide them to you. Just keep an eye on whatever you're using. If you provide cutting boards, once they start getting scored, you start seeing cut lines. Those cut lines start turning brown or black. You want to look at resurfacing or replacing the equipment. The name of the game with food contact surfaces is you want things smooth and easily cleanable. So once it's not one or the other, you want to go ahead and discard it or try to get it back to that. That's going to go also with the grill and the flat top. I remember the first time I saw a grill, I did not know that flat top grills start out silver because they get that carbon buildup on them and they turn black. That is okay as long as it is still smooth and easily cleanable.